listening to the Unleash Greatness podcast with your host, Jonathan Mitchell. The best in personal, emotional, spiritual, and business development.
Hello everyone, it is Wednesday and this is Unleash Greatness. I am Jonathan Mitchell, your lovely host of the day. So I just want to say thank you for listening in. I am deeply and honestly appreciative of anyone who takes the time to listen to these podcasts. Thank you. If you can, share, subscribe, let everyone know about it. Love to have more people listen in. And if you want to reach out to me, please do so at unleashg.com. That's unleash as in the letter G.com. Today is book review day. We're talking about The Power of Focus by Jack Canfield, Victor Hansen, and Les Hewitt. Excellent book. Today's podcast is sponsored by naturalmedicinemamamas.com, where you can find any help, advice, or products around natural and alternative medicine. Amazing stuff for men, women, and children. Personally use it. Love it. So I just want to get into this book here, but before I get all crazy on it, let's have a lovely little intro music. Here we go. All right, so this book was written a little while ago. I've had this book for a long time. But I've reread this book several times because I love the principles that are inside of it. So this is The Power of Focus by Jack Canfield, Victor Hansen, Les Hewitt. How to hit your business, personal, and financial targets with absolute certainty. Excellent book. So where we're going to go from here, let me just kind of talk to you a little bit about what to expect and what this whole dang book is about. So I'm going to read by one of the quotes they're going to have here. Hopefully you can understand the purpose of this book and why I'm going into this. So there's a quote by J. Paul Getty that says, "The individual who wants to reach the top in business must appreciate the might of the force of habit, and must understand that practices are what create habits. He must be quick to break those habits that can break him and hasten to adopt those practices that will become the habits that will help him achieve the success they desire." So one thing they say in here, the reason why we are so confident that the ideas in this book will work for you is because they've already worked for us and thousands of our clients. So as you well know, these guys were involved with writing the books of Chicken Soup for the Soul. They're super inspiring, have coaching programs. I actually used to sell a couple of programs for Jack Canfield a few years ago, and just love what they have to say. So one of the things I want to point out is some of the principles they have going forward. I'm going to read you a few of them out of this book. So this is out of the first chapter. It just says that life doesn't just happen to you. It's all about choices and how you choose to respond to every situation. If you are in the habit of continually making bad choices, disaster often occurs. Your everyday choices ultimately determine whether you end up living in abundance or living in poverty. However, life can never completely close the door to opportunity. So successful people have successful habits, unsuccessful people don't. I know it kind of sounds like, well, duh, of course that is. But the question is, if you want to be successful, what are those habits? And I think it changes because it all depends on what your definition of success is. But one thing they talk a lot on, which kind of goes back into the momentum effect, another book I'll probably have to review later, but it's all about consistency. The biggest thing you have to look for is consistency. So habits. So I'm going to read another paragraph here from the next couple of pages over. It says, let's just say you want to be financially independent. Doesn't it make sense that you have to check your money-making habits? Are you in the habit of paying yourself first every month? Do you consistently save and invest at least 10% of your income? The answer is either yes or no. Immediately you can see if you're moving in the right direction. The key word here is consistently. That means every month, every week, every day, track it. I would go into more of this as just saying, if you're concerned about your financial health and what's going on financially, I would keep track of everything, what comes in, what goes out, and what you're spending it on to find out where you might be leaking cash from random things like monthly subscriptions you forgot about or whatever. And let's just say, if you take a look at that, if you take the chance to really dive into it, this book kind of talks about that. So in the later in the chapter, there's our successful habits formula. This is a step-by-step method to help you create better habits. It works because it is simple, You don't need to have complicated strategies. This template can be applied to any area of your life, business, or personal. If applied consistently, it will help you achieve everything you want, and here are the 3 fundamental steps. Number 1, clearly identify your bad or unproductive habits. Number 2, define your new successful habit. And number 3, create a 3-part action plan. I'm going to read into these a little bit. So going back to number 1, it says clearly identify your bad or unproductive habits. It's important that you really think about the future or consequences of your bad habits. These may not show up tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year. It could be years and years away. When you look at your unproductive behavior one day at a time, it may not look so bad. The smoker says, what's wrong with a few cigarettes today? It helps me relax. I'm not wheezing and coughing yet. However, the days accumulate, and 20 years later, the doctor's office, the x-rays are conclusive. They have lung cancer with years and years and years of smoke in their lungs. If you smoke 10 cigarettes a day for 20 years, that's 73,000 cigarettes. Do you think 73,000 cigarettes could have an impact on your lungs? Of course it does. So when you examine your own bad habits, consider the long-term implications and be totally honest. Now, I don't know if any of you who are listening in are smokers or not, and not that I mind if you are, but it's just taking the things that may be holding you back, what you define as bad habits, and just ask yourself the question, how many times this last week has this habit happened in my life? Like, let's just say you have a bad habit of sleeping in and not working out, or you have a habit of having lots and lots of sugar, or you have a habit of being impatient and yelling at people or raising your voice before you really had a chance to understand. Like, there's just a lot of habits you can have. The question is what do you see as a bad habit? And then are you considering the long-term implications in your life, your health, your relationships of what those bad habits could be doing to you? Next is define your new successful habit. Usually this is the opposite of your bad habit. As an example, smoking would be not smoking. What are you actually going to do? To motivate yourself, think about the benefits and rewards of adopting your new successful habit. The more you vividly describe the benefits, the more likely you are to take action. This kind of goes down to the whole pain versus pleasure thing, that humans are motivated by either pain or pleasure on some intrinsic level, which I have some questions about that, but ultimately I would agree that for the most part, maybe not 100%, but for the most part, we are motivated by either trying not to have pain to avoid pain, or by trying to gain pleasure. I mean, that's why a lot of people work or go to schools, because I spend all this money on school so that I can gain the pleasure of whatever opportunity that could be there, right? Or the pain of not going through some sort of medical procedure. So the fear or the pain of being in bad medical health motivates you to work out. I mean, I don't know what it is. There's tons of things you could have. But again, the question is, what's going to motivate you to move forward? And can you visualize vividly the results or the benefits of taking positive habits and action? Next is a 3-part action plan. This is where the rubber meets the road. In smoking example, there are several options like read how to stop smoking literature, start hypnosis therapy, substitute something else when the desire for cigarette arises, place a bet with a friend makes you accountable, start a fresh air program, use nicotine patch, stay away from other smokers. You must take action. Start with one habit you really want to change. Focus on 3 immediate action steps you can take and go into practice. So practice is, they just say before the habits are created. You have to practice something first and then a habit forms. So finding out what you have as a practice is what will have you be successful. I'm going to go into one of my favorite parts of this book, which is about goal setting and top 10 goal list. I found that there's some crazy things that people have as goals, but I really like this list of the top 10 goals checklist of what your goals should be like, just as an example to help you. Number 1 is your most important goals should be your own. It kind of sounds like, well, duh, of course they should be my own, but I find a lot, and even myself sometimes, I think to myself, I create these goals and then I think, is this a goal that I really want, or is this a goal that my family wants for me, my friends, my whoever? Is this motivated by me trying to please somebody else and I don't even know it, right? And just be willing to ask the question, do I really want this? Do I really, really want this? And if the answer is yes, then great. I mean, it can be something that your parents want for you and that you want for you. That's totally fine. But if it's something that someone else wants for you and then you don't want it and yet you're still going for it, you might want to look at why you're motivated to do that. Next is your goals must be meaningful. Again, I know these kind of sound like, well, of course, duh. So you want to ask the question is, what is really important to me? What's the purpose of doing this? What am I prepared to give in order to accomplish this goal? And if it's not really important to you, you're not going to make the time. So the question is what are you going to do to make that happen? Talking about pain, it says in here that Jim Rohn observes that there are two major pains in life. The one pain is that of discipline, and the other is the pain of regret. Which one do you want to have? So like as an example would be someone who never works out ever in their life and eventually gets to the point where they're so old they can't move, they can't experience their grandkids or family or any basic movement or function of the body like walking up the stairs. Do you want to have the pain of discipline to get yourself in a good space health-wise, or do you want to have the pain of regret? Very interesting to look at, especially now that I'm older after reading this for the last few years. Next is your goals must be specific and measurable. You want to be as specific as possible. So instead of saying my goal is to be financially independent, what does that mean? For some people, financial independence is having $50 million saved and invested. For others, it's earning $100,000 a year. For someone else, it's debt-free. So you got to make sure you're clear on what is measurable and specific for you. So if you want to be financially independent, what does that mean? Does that mean having $10 million in the bank by the time you retire? Does that mean having everything debt paid off? Does that mean having a good job? Be honest with yourself and find out what does that mean. Remember that a goal without a number is just a slogan. You got to be specific. I just want to go back to that one. Next, your goals must be flexible. Number of reasons. Life changes. Things happen. You don't want to have a system and goals that are so rigid you can't be flexible and shift them if they need to be. And it always allows you the ability to change course because you never know. There's been many times where I've gone into, like with music, for example. When I first started doing music when I was a kid, and then when I got into college, like me writing music, when I started to write music of my own, I sang for a long time, but I didn't start writing my own music until probably early college years. And at that point, it was more because I just enjoyed the experience of recording something and to have fun with music and to make something new. I never intended on having anything else happen from that. But because of that, I mean, my goal at one time was just to have a CD made of music that I did by myself, which I totally accomplished. And I was super proud of my first album because that was my music, my album, and my goal that I wanted to have. And now that I'm on the other side, again, my goal is to ask myself, okay, am I going to be satisfied again with another album? Well, no, because I want to do more than that now. I want to go above and beyond. So I've had now my music on Fox Sports and in the Pac-12 Football Network and a bunch of other places. And I'm super humbled and excited for that because it's opened up doors that I didn't even know I could have open until I started making music. And then options happened. And if I just stuck with saying I'm only going to make albums and music and that kind of stuff and not be open to saying, well, maybe I could do something else with this, I wouldn't have some of the experiences that I've had. Your goals, this is number 5, your goals must be challenging and exciting. You want to have something that drives you, pushes you forward, and makes you excited in the morning. Go, I'm excited to work on this thing, whatever it is. I know, again, it seems kind of like, well, duh. But I think a lot of times we feel this pressure as a society to have goals, and we don't ever think about asking the question, okay, lose weight. Am I excited about that? Am I excited about working out every day? No, but what can I do to make it exciting? I had someone tell me this once. They said, oh, just the thought of getting up on a treadmill every day makes me exhausted. But the thought of getting up and going to box makes me stoked. And so it's finding the ways that you can, accomplish the goals that you know you need to do in a way that you're excited about doing them. Number 6 is your goals must be in alignment with your values. If you remember yesterday, I talked about leadership principles. This goes right in line with that. It's finding out what is important to you and making sure that you stay in alignment with yourself and what you think is important. Again, I know some of these are kind of like, well, duh, but again, when you make goals, are you really staying in alignment with yourself? Are you staying in alignment with your own boundaries and what is realistic with your own life? 7, your goals must be well balanced. Again, I'm going to read this one more time. It said, if you ever lived your life again, what would you do differently? When people in their 80s are asked this question, they never say, I'd spend more time in the office or I'd go to more board meetings. Instead, they travel more, spend more time with their family, and have a lot more fun. So again, the question is, be well balanced. Don't make everything professional. Make it so you have a goal of laughing every day or having fun or being with family or something like that. Next is your goals must be realistic. And this is one that I really appreciated their mindset on this, because I love their thoughts on this of not restraining yourself. But they have this little phrase that says there is no such thing as an unrealistic goal, only unrealistic time frames, which I love that. Because I know before with myself, I've had these crazy, outrageous goals, and people are like, you're never going to do that, blah, blah, blah. Or you say, don't restrict me. I'm going to do what I want. Just don't tell me what to do. But like, it's just, you want to be realistic with that's what's going to happen. And when I say realistic with your goals, with them, I echo them when I say be realistic in your time frames. They give an example of saying, if you're earning $30,000 a year and your goal is to be a millionaire in 2 months, it's probably unrealistic unless you hit the lottery, which is very highly unlikely. When it comes to new business ventures, a good rule of thumb is to double the time you think it would take for initial startup. Same thing with other things. It's just being realistic and giving yourself plenty of time to accomplish the goal. Now, if you said to yourself, you want to be a millionaire in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever you think is realistic, I think that's definitely plausible. And again, it has to go down to what you think is realistic and being honest with yourself, not just thinking, oh yeah, I can totally make $1 million in 5 months. If you have a plan and strategy and you know that you're going to do that and you know how, awesome. If you have no clue how in the world you're going to do that, then I would consider you might want to reconsider the time frame. I'm not saying you can't be a millionaire. I'm just saying make sure you take a look at what that time frame looks like. Next is your goals must include contribution. So they talk a lot about giving to others, and like we talked about last Friday on the Spiel Day, giving to others, service to others, philanthropy is super important. So obviously you want to have that as part of it. And lastly is your goals must be supported by your family and friends around you. So super important. Love this kind of stuff. I'm going to give you some questions they give you to kind of think about your own goals. What do you want to do? What do you want to have? Where do you want to go? What contribution do you want to make? What do you want to become? What do you want to learn? What do you want to spend your time with? How much do you want to spend, save, and invest and earn? How much time do you want off for fun? And what will you do to create your optimum health? Here's some other things I'm going to read for you, which I also enjoyed very, very much, is just different ways to help yourself move forward. Is by creating a vision board, creating an ideas book, have a mastermind or mentors group, visualize, think, and reflect on the review. Just be able to do something that reminds you of your goals on a daily basis. I personally think that there's many ways to do this. A vision board is a classic way of doing it. It's definitely not the only way. If something makes you excited, then go for it. But make it an activity that keeps you focused on your goals and makes you excited to do something like a Pinterest pin board or whatever. There's lots of ways to do it. Excellent book. Again, it's by Jack Canfield, Victor Hansen, and Les Hewitt. Super excited to have you guys read it. Please check it out. This is The Power of Focus, and this is Unleash Greatness. Talk to you soon.